All right, guys, you guys are here for a certain reason, and the reason is Mr. Chris Travis in the chat has decided that he wants me to build him a 3-inch little ripper. So Chris Travis in the house, we are going to sit down and discuss a little options. We're going to start with the basics. So we're going to start with your radio, your transmitter. Call it a transmitter because it transmits a signal to your drone to control it. How long the ash is on that joint? Not long enough. So in that perspective, we're going to start here and work our way up because the transmitter is going to be the heart and soul of your drone or drones in the future because eventually you're going to have more than one. There we go. That's a better option. So Chris Travis, we are going to look through some transmitters here and you're going to decide if you want to buy these ones local or I can buy them here and get everything set up and bound to the drone, but it's going to cost a lot more money, unfortunately, and that's just the way it goes with FPV or drones in period. So you really need to figure out what your best ideal type of transmitter is going to be. Now, a lot of people right now I've been jumping on the Radio Master TX16S. Now this remote basically will do any type of receiver that is out in the market right now because it is a multi-protocol. So that multi-protocol means it can go to Spectrum, FR Sky, FL Sky, and maybe even a couple others. But this is what you're going to have to figure out is what you really want. Now, right now for us, this one's on pre-order only because this one is the Max Edition. So Max Edition means it has a lot more colorful type of buttons on it. I believe it actually has leather backings on the back of it for grip. So when you're hanging on to it, you got a little bit nicer material than a plastic grip. But what I did is I 3D printed grips on mine. But this one is probably one of the better ones, only because of the functionality, full screen display, all that kind of good stuff. So this thing is probably going to be your workhorse. Also, before you even get a drone, having this thing in your pocket or desk or whatever, because it won't fit in your pocket, is to actually start playing with the simulators. So FPV simulators, drone simulators on your computer is probably the most ideal way to start FPV, especially if you're on a budget, which means you can start off with any type of drone and you get to use the functionality of this remote to get you in the air later on. So it's basically like an Xbox controller, but way, 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 way better for flying anyway. The one I have is the standalone version. Now, these are all Canadian dollars, of course, mind you. But this is the one I got. Actually, I have to lie. This one's a standard edition. The difference between a standard edition and the one that I'm going to show you is the Hall gimbals. Hall gimbals have a little bit better controlling on the stick movements. So your stick movements will actually be more precise. When it always says Hall sensors, that's kind of what you want to look for when you're buying a radio, no matter what brand. And the OpenTX is basically the programming software that it runs inside. And having a Li-ion battery is really good too, because that means you have to just buy one box and it comes with the battery. Sometimes you have to buy the battery separate. Now, one of these remotes are still going to cost you about $250 Canadian. But again, you're going to get one of the better types of radios that are on the market. You can, now this is by preference, but you can jump down here to the Tango 2. Team Black Sheep makes a really nice remote. It's very small. It's more closer to an Xbox controller. So this one will actually be really good for you for grip, handle, especially the functionality of having a small remote in your hands in comparison of having a really big remote. This might be an option for you. Price range about the same, but the problem is this guy runs what is called Crossfire. And if you don't have Crossfire on the drones that you're building, it will not connect to it. So this thing is not multi-protocol. That's the only difference. But the size, functionality, and everything is actually really nice. Fits in your backpack type of thing. You can go anywhere with it. And this thing also will still plug into your computer to play flight simulators like you would anyway, any other remote. Has a USB-C on the back and it just plugs right in. So that's an option. Your other option in transmitters, now a lot of people use them for airplanes. I really don't use them because of latency issues. When you're flying quads are moving through the air at a lot faster speed than an airplane. Some people use the Spectrum radios. The Spectrum radios have been around for a long time. People argue with other people over day and night over the differences and how better one is than the other. Even some people will say FR Sky isn't that good, go Crossfire. But in all my years and all the people that I know, FR Sky is still one of the better radios, even though their branding might suck and they're not really with it as much as they should be with the FPV pilots in the industry. That being said, the Spectrum has been around for an even longer time, and the radios are pretty basic. They don't have Hall gimbals. They don't have the potentiometers that some of the better remotes have. But again, you are getting the Cadillac of transmitters, basically. Now, I don't recommend that one because that's only a 6-channel. Although, really, in channels, you only really need as many channels as there are functions. So, you already have 4 because you have throttle, yaw, pitch, and you need channels for your arming, for your flight modes, and I like to have another channel just for the beeper and as well for the flip over crash. So the T16 price variance between some of these radios just makes it a lot more sense because you're getting a lot more functionality out of the radio than you are on a lot of these other radios. Here it is again. Now there's the jumper. The jumper is basically the same idea as the Radio Master. The problem is this thing has gotten out of stock for a while now, so you can't really get this one anymore. But the difference in the functionality is pretty much the same. It's almost the exact same design. It actually came from the same team that designed both of them, except for they had a falling out, and now there's 2 different radios. The Radio Master definitely jumped ahead because of better functionality in some points, but also just the form factor and everything. It just worked out better. Grip, and you can tell the difference on the size. I can show you a comparison, but yeah, this one's a lot cheaper product maze, a lot more like cheap plastic, and the Radio Master has a lot more metal parts and stuff like that, Hall gimbals. Just the quality of the material, everything in it is just so much better now, and you can get it in multiple different colors, which is kind of cool too. But right now, these are just pre-order. Yeah, FPV Joel's knows. It's definitely one of the better ones. And if I would have held out, I probably would have got the Max as well. The T18 hasn't been released yet in our area of Canada, so I can't get the T18. But if you do look up the T18, it's the exact same style, but more switches by 2. And an internal, yes, exactly. So if you want to check that one out, I mean, that one is a good option as well. But there are also a lot of companies in the US that have a lot of the same products that you could get. I know Pyro Drone is a really good one. RDQ, which is another great one. And yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. FPV Joel, if you have some links to some good shops that you know of right now in the States, because Chris Travis is in the States, please link him if you can for me. But for now, I'm just promoting the SN Hobbies because that's where I'll be getting the parts locally. But yeah, Get FP is another great source, of course. How could I forget? So yeah, you really got to understand and get your remote or transmitter. If you want to get that pre-ordered or get that before you get any of the parts, that's probably the best way to go. You could also get some of these smaller drones that come with box goggles and the remote, but I really don't highly recommend them, only because they are a good starter, but a good only starter. Once you get into it, you're going to have to buy a whole new set of everything just to fly again, because that goggles, I mean, they're okay. They're very beginner. The remote is very, very beginner, and the drone is pretty much standard beginner. But if you get something that's worth it, put your money into things like this, like a transmitter, you're going to be headed the right way in FPV. So let me know, Chris Travis, if you're still in the chat. I know I haven't seen your message in a bit, but this is all devoted to you, so I hope you're out there listening. And if not, you can watch later and listen later. But I kind of want some confirmation to make sure that you understand what's going on, and I can continue to the next part. There he is. We'll need to look. Yes. Right on, bro. So yeah, check out those websites. Newbie Drone is basically a small drone. They do have their own independent goggle system and remote as well. They are one of the better combo type you can buy. But I'm definitely want to steer you towards a little bit more, not just professional quality, but just better quality overall. Unless you just want a little tiny little drone and rip it around, I can definitely suggest a bunch of like really cool tiny whoops or tiny drones that you can get that are already pre-built that you can also just buy from snhobbies.com. But there are all kinds of little cool things like these guys that and I picked up the Mobula 6 HD, which I'll scroll down and find it for you, and then I will show you. So I bought the last one, of course, at my shop, but locally. But this is the Mobula 6 HD, and this thing is literally about the size of your hand, and it takes a little tiny 1S battery, and it's actually one of the better type of little drones out there for the Happy Model brand. They are very cheap, but they are still very resilient. The newbie drone stuff is the exact same thing, but they have a little bit better customer service, and they are, I believe newbie drone is actually run by FPV pilots, where Happy Model is run by I think one FPV pilot, which is kind of cool. And they are very good beginner type drones. The newbie drones, some of the higher end ones that are brushless is what you want. Brushed, very small, very fragile, and very much indoors. Where brushless, which is these ones, these are brushless. These ones can have a little bit more power to be outside and still be throttle controlled enough to be indoor flyers to get you more into flying as well. Newbie Drone is another great one, of course. They do the same kind of thing, just by a different name, different design. But they are also amazing too as well. And size really doesn't matter. Once you're in the beginning of it, you want to get it small and you want to be able to feel comfortable in your flying experience to take a drone that doesn't have prop guards on it and start ripping around somewhere at high speeds, because the 3-inch drone class and higher definitely will get a lot more speed, a lot more torque, a lot more RPMs, stuff like that. So yeah, the brush motors wear out for sure. And all it takes is like putting your finger at a brushed motor, and it'll stop the prop. And if you hold it long enough, it'll burn out the motor. Where if you do it to a brushless prop and you're spinning it at very, very low RPMs, it will just kind of stutter a bit. It won't overheat it. But if you do stick your finger in a prop at a 3-inch that's fully RPM, you might as well just say goodbye to your finger. So you got to be very careful. And these little guys, these tiny little props on these things, they won't hurt you. But they might pull your hair out if you get it caught in your hair. So, transmitters, combo packs, and whoops, all in one right there for you. You don't even have to go HD. This thing's a little bit more expensive just because it has the HD recording on it. You don't need to go that route if you don't want to. You can always go back and stick back to the regular Mobula, which I don't even see it on this thing, but it's a little bit smaller. The next one here is also a Tiny Hack Emax. Interested in just one radio and goggles setup with possible multiple drones. Right. So if you're gonna go more of like not a combo pack, which I think is what you're saying, is you want to get one radio and goggles, and then different multiple drones in the future, like get one and then keep going, kind of thing. Then you don't really. I mean, you can still get these little drones and connect it to your nice radio that I showed earlier, and you'll be better off. you're making a lot of sense here. So the other part of it is your FPV components, and that's your goggles. Now, not everybody is a goggle thing. Some people do box goggles, which I still do. Some people do screens still. Some people have glasses that they can't do wearing the goggles. Sometimes they'll just do that. Um, Goggles is a tough sell in Vancouver right now because of our limited supply. But I'll show you some of the supply that we have in the website here. And unfortunately, I can't show you everything, but we can give you some tips on quality goggles that you can get. And you can move forward into the future of FPV with them as well. These aren't the most newest ones out there. I think there's now the EV300Ds. The EV300Ds are the ones you're going to actually look at, but these are pretty much the exact same thing with a little bit more tweaks, a little bit better fan on it, I believe, and a couple other things. Yashin is a very cheap brand, but they're not cheap brand. They're pretty like entry level and like pretty decent quality, like overall. And especially the EV300s have actually gotten a little bit better quality from what I've heard in other sites. So these have actually 4 antennas, which means you get true diversity. The more antennas you have on your goggles, the more reception you're going to have, more or less. Better antennas. These are very stock antennas nobody uses. But those are the kind of things you want to look for, is having more than one antenna. A lot of the beginner goggles that come as the combo packs of 1 antenna definitely want at least 2, at least. And these have a built-in fan, which is nice, keeps your face cool. Comfort fitting, built-in DVR, so it records your video of your flight onto your goggles, which won't be HD. It's an analog signal. But some of the cameras, some of the VTXs that you will get in your drone setup will be very nice quality. And I've actually flown some analog cameras that look almost as good as a really nice 720 image. Most of the outdoors might look at one of those tiny ones for indoors. Yeah, so we'll try to give you more advice for outdoor type stuff. And yeah, exactly. The tiny ones are more built, ready to go. So you don't have to really worry about building those ones. It's more the 3-inch class and up that you really want to think about building your own. You can get all of them, every size, ready to fly and built and everything from the manufacturers, but you really don't want to be spending a lot of money on those, because a lot of times those ones they fail. They're not well built or quality parts, and if you do, you're paying for it. But yeah, your budget is definitely a major concern on the entire package. I know Chris Travis, we're just doing the 3-inch build, but to get into the hobby, you really need to start with these 2 things and work your way up to that 3-inch as well. We've got video transmitters and video receivers, which are connected to your goggles, video receivers. So we've got video receiver modules. So like I said, these are either they go onto your goggle or these can go on your ground station. This one's meant for a ground station. This one's meant for your goggles. We used to carry this one. I don't think we'll get this one back in stock right away. But this is kind of the same idea as what they call a rapid fire module. I think there's a bunch of other ones out there. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'm pretty sure somebody in the chat could chime in and tell me all the different ones there are, but there's a few of them. And basically these are for your goggles to clip in to where those antenna mounts are. So these are better modules than what comes in with the package, and these are upgrades. Sometimes these are the ones that just you have to put in. Some of the Fat Sharks, they don't have any modules. With Eachine, they already come with the modules. Fat Shark is a really good brand for goggles, but the problem is you're paying top quality dollar for them, and you're going to be really going after upgrading each part of it to get it to work for you. Especially if you wear glasses, there's diopters you can add to the goggles, stuff like that. So this is just one piece of that puzzle. I would, for $500 to $600 range beginning, I would say start with a radio and get a little tiny whoop and a little screen. You can buy like one of those, like might not be as great, but you can get one of those, the little where is it? It's like an FPV watch. So you can get something like that. I mean, it's not super ideal. You'll get to see the image of you flying without buying goggles right away. Or you could go the route of doing the same thing I do, is I run box goggles. And the box goggles that I use aren't listed anymore because they are discontinued. But they are kind of similar. I don't want to say they're similar to these because they're kind of really not. They're close to the idea of what these are. And so these are box goggles because the way that they protrude from your face, they are basically a screen on the end of a box, basically, with two antennas, which is standard for good box goggles. And then it has probably the DVR and everything. It has a headphone jack, and I'm pretty sure it has a slider for magnification. Wearing glasses inside of box goggles is not a problem because inside the box goggles there's actually a lot of room for your head to fit in. And this one actually is really nice functionality. It has a clip-off screen, so you don't have to wear the goggles. You could just have this sitting or put it on a little flexi tripod and have it turned on. You can just like literally look at the screen and fly. Having box goggles isn't a bad thing. A lot of people still use them. It's not the best, but for some people it is the best. Yeah, so maybe that might be the better route for a beginner, because if you look at the Fat Shark brand and you want to start buying all the pieces for that puzzle to build a goggle, because you're not really buying a Fat Shark and just walking out the door and flying with it. You gotta buy the module, you gotta buy the antennas, you gotta buy the battery. So that comes together, and that's almost $500-600 right there. Where if you're buying something like a box goggle, you're spending about $100-200 max on the box goggles, because you're still going to need antennas and batteries for this one as well. But the rapid fire module, or the fusion one, or whatever one you end up having to get because they have it on stock, will still be pretty expensive. Your radio, you can still get away with buying a cheaper version radio. If you look at FPV Marketplace on Facebook, or if you even just shop around on some of the forums and stuff, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are selling transmitters, and just kind of look up some information on the transmitters themselves and feel an idea of what your budget would be good for and what you want, because your 3-inch drone is definitely it's not going to be super expensive to build. I think the majority of the parts for the 3-inch that is required will be about $200 to $300, And I mean, that's not with an HD camera. That's just a regular analog camera. It's going to have the basic VTX. That's not going to go very high. And it's going to have, you know, one set of props and, you know, one battery and stuff like that. Eventually, you're going to need a lot more batteries. Batteries are about $10, $15, $20 a piece. Props are the cheapest thing. You could probably get props for a dozen of them for $5. You know what I mean? So you gotta price compare things together, and that's kind of what we're doing tonight. But goggles, transmitters, definitely one of your top two things that you're gonna have to figure out that portion first, and then your budget after that will be left over for the 3-inch, or you know, maybe even just the better thing is to wait off on it. I can send you the frame if you want still, and then just get yourself a little whoop, a little tiny whoop type thing. It comes with all the stuff that you need. I'm not sure if my vendor has it, so I'll have to jump out. But I think Get FPV is probably the better one for you guys out there in America. And Get FPV is actually a really great site. They have a learn chapter for it too as well. So you can learn how to build different size drones, all kinds of cool stuff. Let's see if we can go and find you the ready to fly. And I want the combos. I don't know if they are. Bundles. So yeah, they've got a bunch of different kits that you can get. Now the Tiny Hawk 2 is actually one of the ones that people have definitely talked a lot about. They are back ordered like crazy. The Beta FPV ones here on the right, these ones are really good too. But again, you're getting a tiny little remote and tiny little goggles, and you know you can learn from that. And you get the idea of how to fly it really. Yeah, Get FPV is really great. And no, you did not miss out on any sexy drone build yet. We're more discussing the starting of that chapter. Ooh, they're even selling a DVI Mavic. Well, this is a really good build. For a starter, this is probably one of my ones that I would say is the best for a beginner. 5-inch, a little bit too much for a beginner who's never flown a drone, where this would be something that would be phenomenal. The Tranus X7 is actually a really good remote. That's an FR Sky brand. And yeah, it's pretty legendary. Almost 90% of pilots probably still use this remote, this transmitter. So that's a good one. The Fat Shark, I believe that's the Scout goggles. They're okay. Again, they only have one antenna, so it's not great. If you're flying around indoors, it's no big deal. When I'm flying indoors with my little guys, I don't even use antennas because your antennas actually get some type of interference through the Wi-Fi and stuff if you're on the wrong channel, and you don't even really need it. You're not even going that far. So I don't even really use antennas on my goggles when I'm flying indoors, close proximity. That's a steal. Yeah. The goggles are okay. Like I said, they're only one antenna. Like, it's very hard for me to even want to buy goggles right now that have even two antennas because, you know, like I said, the more optimization you have and, you know, getting signal is way better. These ones are shown on here as their products, but they aren't even ones that actually come with the product themselves, because these are actually the goggles that I have. These are the VRD2 Pros from Eachine, which has nothing to do with what's actually being sold on this part, which is really confusing. But as you can see, the other picture is this goggle is what they're actually selling it with, and it's got the one coaxial for the antenna. So, I mean, for the price, it's not bad. The problem is you're going to get new goggles within like a month's time, because those are actually very small fitting. I would actually maybe even think that they might be even built more for a kid. Oh, which is kind of cool. You can actually scroll down here and build your own drone. Or not your own drone, your own combo pack. So if you're already on here, Chris Travis, get FPV, you can be following along. And you could basically just do everything you need to do here and set up this sucker. And this was actually the remote I started with. It was the FR Sky X Lite remote. And it's a really nice remote. It's kind of like the Tango 2, except for it's pretty small. You know, it's still a great deal. There's nothing wrong with them other than they're back ordered right now. Then you have options here for the ones that are out of stock, the EV 800Ds. Wow, 800Ds. And the Scout and the Recon. Recon and the Scout both have one antenna. So I don't suggest them. Oh, here's the other one. They can get this one here. This is the Mini FPV goggle, which is a non-good brand name. It's kind of like a knockoff brand name. But again, for your beginner, it'll still do the same thing and work the same way. Accessories like props and all this kind of stuff. You figure out what you want and what you get. You know, these props and everything are going to be for this. You're going to need the batteries, and unfortunately that looks like they're back ordered, because you need that for your remote and for your goggles. All kinds of extra batteries here that you're going to need for that drone. It's actually all really nicely lit up for you. Then you got battery chargers, because you can't just have batteries without charging your batteries, because the battery only lasts for about 3-4 minutes, maybe less than that for these little guys. So to have a charger to charge those batteries for that drone is going to be optimal too. So transmitters, goggles, and now you're looking at batteries and battery chargers as well. So yeah, this hobby can get really expensive, but it's only really expensive in the beginning, because you're only buying one transmitter, you're only buying one, maybe two sets of goggles, and you're only going to get one battery charger, maybe two. So yeah, there's basically a bunch of stuff, and it even tells you how to bind and set up your drone with a quick little tip video, how you get this thing to connect to this thing and make it so that they can run together and go fly. Of course, there are the notice that says, you know, operation of this type of product in the U.S. and many other countries may require a license. Some countries may forbid its use entirely. In the USA, you'll need a ham amateur radio license, learn about ham licenses, and find a ham license exam session in your area. Now, I do not have my ham license. I am Canadian, and it is kind of the same idea as you're supposed to really have it. But to have your ham license is really just understanding your channels, your VTX channels, your transmission, and your wattage and everything that you're using on these remotes and these type of video receivers and transponders and all kinds of different parts you're going to have on your ground station and everything. That's all going to be like kind of like DJI is there's so much power output and input that it can actually affect places around you. Sometimes maybe your house at a very, very high watt, sometimes air traffic, sometimes ground traffic, sometimes radio signals, stuff like that. So no understanding your output and your inputs of all your wattages and all your channels and everything like that is going to be a thing that they tell you that they need you need to know, but it's really for FPV it's not that big of a deal. We don't usually do a lot of crazy outputs unless you're doing long range or filming for the movie industry or something like that. It's you're basically using a very small amount of power to signal back and forth, so it's not too bad. Once you get into crossfire and all the bigger long range type of connections to your transmitter, that's when you're going to get into more knowledge of these kind of things. But as a beginner, you're just going to be happy with 25 milliwatts, running on whatever channel band, and you'll be fine. It's nothing you have to really worry about in this case. But they do like to make an example of it these days. So yeah, remote, as in your transmitter, your goggles, beginner drone, and then you'll need batteries and a battery charger. And antennas for the goggles, a battery for the remote, battery for this, battery for that. You eventually you're going to be upgrading, so you're going to want more batteries. You're going to want more props, stuff like that. So it's all going to come together in time. But like I said in the beginning, I still believe that if you really don't want to go this form factor right away, all about going right back to the transmitter and just getting a really nice transmitter to play on a simulator to get you understanding how to fly in the first place, getting the bird to fly which way and another way, and controlling it, moving it through the air and stuff. Yeah, I mean, on a 5-inch, it's about 5 minutes. On these little tiny guys, like these things, you might get 3 minutes. But it all depends on the bird. It really all depends on the bird. Some of these people who are building these 3-inch or even 2-inch birds are now, I keep calling them birds, can actually last for about 20-25 minutes. But they're also using a different type of battery cells. And they're using the 18650 type style ions. So instead of using LiPo, which is a big thing that we use, they're using those. So our batteries are, for that little guy, it's a 1S. You're using a really small battery in comparison, but in the battery world of a 3-inch, you're looking at a 3S to a 4S. And you're looking at something that's a lot bigger form factor in comparison. I'll just pick a random one that I use, and you're looking at GMB is a really good brand, but you're looking at something like these, and these can weigh up to 1.11 gram. No, it's 103 grams. 103 grams make a lot more sense. But yeah, so you're looking at that plus your quad. So if you're going to be flying some of the bigger stuff, they tell you in the States that it needs to be under 250 grams. So your overall weight with the battery has to be at least lower than that, or else you're going to need to file with transport, USA Transport Commission, FAA. You have to do a bunch of stuff, an exam, and all this crap. So you're better off staying in under 250 grams. And having fun with something that's not going to last 25 minutes in the air anyway, because the more disturbing you are to people who might not be too friendly to FPV at this time, it'll just cause more headaches in the future. Once you get more comfortable and you fly really well, then you can be more interested in doing 25-minute flight times and 5-inch, and being comfortable and getting this drone to react the way that it's supposed to. So that being said, this might not be the best option for everybody, might not be the best option for you. but there are definitely options just like this. Not necessarily exactly this bundle, but if you do go with something that's going to have a higher end remote transmitter, you're going to have a lot better time in the air in the future. These parts can get a lot more expensive. So at $239 for all of this is pretty low. Let's just put a package together to get a realistic idea. Oh, but it doesn't tell you. You'll have to do back order, and we'll just pick the ones that are. We'll keep that one. You'll need batteries. You'll need props. I mean, you don't really need a case. I mean, it'd be good to have a case. You can figure that one out. But we just want to get an idea of what you'll need. All these are extra canopies. The top pieces you don't really need. We'll just do one battery. That one for now. It's a cheaper one. Oh no, it's not the cheaper one because this is two of them. These are two batteries for $22. And we'll do a charger. So, I mean, the best charger out there right now is going to be this one that I know of. But we'll just do a price comparison. And you'll need the parallel board for it, which means that is basically an ideal setup for a beginner. And the price, $518 without shipping. Now this will give you that remote upgrade, nice QX7. This will give you the FR Sky Lite instead of the QX7 actually, sorry. And yeah, so some of these parts aren't the best for everybody. Hey, John Kuby. But it's kind of an ideal of what kind of cost you're going to be getting. If you want to go more advanced, definitely check that out. It's all depending on what dealer you go to. Get FPV is a good option. There's a lot of good options depending on where you are in America, and you'll be able to get in touch with some of these dealers, and maybe you can get better values through Get FPV or through other ones. Maybe even through the Facebook Marketplace type deal. Getting a transmitter through there might be a good option as well. Some people already have package deals they're selling, so that might be a good option than buying from retailer. Yeah, I hope this information was helpful. And if you want to check out SN Hobbies, that's my local shop here in Vancouver, New Westminster in BC. You want to check them out. They always have great deals. They do have a limited supply, but they do ship worldwide. And if you mention my name, you get a little bit of a discount when you're ordering. And hope to get you flying soon, man. If you have any questions or anything, you have my email. Let me know. And let me know what your first transmitter is going to be, and if I can help you out from there. But for now, we're just going to call it an evening, and hope you guys all have a great night. And yeah, take care, everybody, and enjoy your evening. And I'll talk to you soon. Good night, guys.